That should have been the delete button. Oh. We'll start over.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, 16th day of March 2016. Once again, we survived another day of the Ides of March. Let's take a quick look at the numbers, and then we're going to go straight to Michael today for a recap of everything that happened in the live trading room. This is a show all about futures, but we're going to start with the cash markets. As we do, today is Fed Day, so it could be a big afternoon. It's certainly been a sleeper of a morning. Dow Jones Industrials are up 10 points. NASDAQ up 13. S&P 500 up 1.5, and the Russell 2000 up just over a point. Now taking a look at our commodity basket, we have crude oil trading at $37.80. That's up 1.5%. No, I take that back. Crude oil is up $1.46, trading at 37.80, and that's a 4% change. So nice rally in crude. Gold, on the other hand, down just $1, less than even talking about. Now we go to the Pacific Rim. The Nikkei up 140 or down 142 points. That's just shy of 1%. Shanghai is up 6 points, and the Hang Seng is down 31. All of those less than 1% movers. So the world's eyes are truly on Janet Yellen this afternoon and what she has to say. No one expects there to be a rate increase, but the accompanying statement, she's going to do the full dog and pony show today. First we get the announcement, and then we get a little statement. Then she comes back for the full-blown press conference. So it's going to be a full afternoon. Turning to Europe, we're mixed there. The DAX is up 34 points. The FTSE is up 32 points, which is half of 1%. And the CAC 40 is down 13 points, which, again, just goes to show how quiet world markets are. Now, we had a big night last night here in America. Senator Rubio stepping down. I heard something that was very surprising. In the past year, although he's on the payroll as a congressman from Florida, he hasn't been doing a lot of congressional work. He's mostly been running for president. And they say one of the talking heads, see, we have a talking head. One of the talking heads said that the reason the people of Florida did not vote for one of their own is because over the course of the past year, he's simply shown that, you know, just because you hire me for a job doesn't mean I'm going to show up and actually do it. So, Rubio, we're sorry to see you go, but you're young and you hydrate well, so I'm sure you'll be back for another run at the Oval Office. Got a couple of headlines I'll cover with you later in the show. We're going to talk, of course, about President Obama and his speech from the Rose Garden today, where he says that it would be, and I quote, a betrayal of our best traditions if he did not rush to appoint a Supreme Court nominee. I'm going to turn to the audience later in the show and ask you what your thoughts are of this nominee. If you know of this nominee, he was nominated once before, I think by Bill Clinton. He didn't make the cut. But the article that I read said he is well liked on both sides of the aisle, the bipartisan, the whole thing, that, you know, he's actually got a shot. Now, this could be the old wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't know. I don't know enough about the individual to give you anything more than an opinion. I'd like to have the opportunity to learn some facts. What has he done in the past? How has he ruled in the past? What's his personal life like? What's his business life like? If he has one, it would be very interesting to find that he actually, along with being a judge and an attorney, that he has operated some form of private business, small business, because we need so much more of that representing us, we the people, in the courts, on Capitol Hill, everywhere. Because we don't have representation at the moment. And if you'll recall, taxation without representation, that created the first Tea Party. They threw a whole lot of tea in, what is it, Boston Harbor, Mike? Is that the proper term?
Yep.
Is that where they tossed it? That's a big cup of tea. Now, I did post last night a recap of the one trade a day alerts from yesterday. I do the Concierge Trade Alerts during the radio program each day. Michael does a complete recap each day of the live trading room here on the radio show. But because the one trade a days don't go out until 11:30 a.m. Eastern, just 30 minutes before the show begins, I have to wait until later in the day before I can do that complete recap. You can see, though, yesterday's OTAD on the S&P was to buy 2004. The first run up, the market made 7.5 points available. And then we dipped back below the trigger. Important prices, important areas, almost always tested. And as we rallied up this morning in the 8:30 hour, okay, 1 hour before the Wall Street opened, we took off. We put in a swing high at 2009.25. So that 4.75 actually becomes 5.25. Now, that's what the market made available. We don't get out at the exact swing high or the exact swing low because we trail our stops. And that's what we teach you how to do, is how to trail your stop so that you're able to maximize the potential of each and every trade that you take. Okay? So with that, we're going to go to Michael right now because we've got a couple of minutes of a late start. And I've got to get through the show pretty quick today because I have some appointments to tend to, and of course I have mentoring sessions. If you have not signed up for your personal mentoring session as of yet, let me show you how it's done. Piece of cake. You just type in to your browser cfrn.net/emini-personal mentoring. Now, who can get a mentoring session? That's a great question. If you're a partner, you have unlimited access within reason. Now, along with you coming to me for mentoring, you also have to do your part. You got to get that business plan written. You got to get that trading plan written. I want to see pages from your journal. I want to see screenshots. I want to know that you're doing your share. Because as long as you're doing your share, I'll never give up on you. I'll always believe that you have what it takes if you put forth the effort. With that, Michael, if you want to grab the screens.
Okay. All right. I will do that.
Take it away. And when I come back, let me see. Did you grab the screens? There we go.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. I will hit mute on my end, and I will see you in a few.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, Dimitri. Let me just check and see if Dimitri's out there. Because he just sent an email. Nope, he's not out there. He just sent an email asking about a trade, if it was a valid trade setup. All right. I am rolling. Hang on. Here's a recap. Here we go. And this. All right. I'm ready. I'm going to hit the record button. Here we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's just start out with this. Today's Wednesday, the 16th day of March, 2016, and we're just going to go over how to take the free trial and what my results were. Okay. So here where it says register for a free trial, you just have to go to our homepage at CFRN.net, and over here in the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. Okay, you must click on the confirmation link. If you don't click that confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. All right, because we don't know that you took the trial until you do that. Now the results of the live trading room. Today we lost 7 ticks on the Russell, we made 9 ticks on crude and 33 ticks on gold. Okay. Today it took us 64 minutes and 5 trades to get to $100 a contract, and we only took a total of 7 trades today. We didn't have much volatility this morning, so we weren't able to take too many trades. All right. On the month now, we're up $2,680 a contract. That's over 12 trading days, averaging $223 per day. Now, if you apply an $8 commission to every trade we've taken, you would have a net profit of $1,424. If you apply a $5 commission to every trade we've taken, you'd have a net profit of $1,895. over here, our yearly total so far, we've traded for 50 trading days. We have a gross profit of $15,570, averaging $311 a day. Okay, $311 a day. So we're about halfway through the month right now, I believe. Let me just come and go over here. Yes, we are about halfway through the month right now. We have 1, 2, and 9. We have 11 trading days left this month. So, actually we have a holiday, so we have 10 trading days left this month. So we should probably get close to doubling that by the end of the month. That's what I would be looking for. Okay. We had a slow start to this month too. All right, let's just go over the trades. We only had 7 of them, I think. Yeah, and 4 of them were right here on gold. All right, our first trade on gold was right here. It was a break even. The next trade on gold was right in here. We got 8 ticks profit on that one. And the next trade on gold. Yeah, I think he knows the camera's still live there, Bob. We're still watching you, Dwayne. Okay. And the next trade on gold was over here. I got 20 ticks profit on that one. And then I got 5 ticks profit on the last one. And that was it. And you can see gold has done nothing, really, since then. Now, there. I am going to go to the Russell now. On the Russell, we had just the one trade, and I thought I had an 8 tick stop out, but as it turned out, I only had a 7 tick stop out. Okay. Minus 7 ticks.
That took the picture away, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still learning to operate the controls. Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Awesome.
So it was minus 7 ticks on the Russell today. There was only one other trade that I think I had shown in here. During the break, well, actually, there was another short we could have taken right there. And that was about it. There was nothing during the break. Okay. This recap is going to be fairly quick, Dwayne, because I hardly had any trades today. On Crude, we had just a couple of trades. There they are. 4 ticks and 5 ticks. That was all we had this morning on Crude. We only missed one trade right in there, it looks like. We had crude inventories come out today, but we never got to the numbers that I had suggested on the crude inventory numbers. Either one. So, and that was it. So during the break, there was a long trade right here. If you didn't mind the cycle being flat and below the bias line, there would have been a long trade right there. There would have been a break even. And that's about it. Okay. On the NQ, I didn't take a single trade this morning. I just don't see any setting up in here. And on the ES, I didn't take a trade. And nothing set up on the ES either. Right? This whole FOMC thing is just making the markets go sideways. Yeah, I know, Bob. All right. Let's see. No, Eugene, he is not going to be. We gotta change that intro.
It's
okay. All right. So let's get back to the spreadsheet.
It's already been changed.
Oh, okay. All right. On the spreadsheet, we lost 7 ticks on the Russell. We made 9 ticks on crude, and we made 33 ticks on gold. Okay, it took us 64 minutes and 5 trades to get to our goal for the day, and the goal is always $100 a contract. We took a total of 7 trades this morning. On the day, on the month, we are now, on the day we're up 350. On the month, we're up 2,680. That's over 12 trading days, averaging $223 a day. On the year, we're up 15,570. That's over 50 trading days. We're averaging $311 per day. Okay. If you have not taken a free trial with us, just go to the home page at CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. Okay. You must click the confirmation link. Right? And that is that. With that, I'm going to stop the recording. And we can head back out to Phoenix. If you are there, Phoenix, ready to roll. See, now's when I need to see the picture.
Phoenix is ready to roll. I'll take the charts here in just a second.
Okay.
Last night, I did the inevitable. It's like when the year changes and you forget to write. We don't even write checks anymore. But back in the day when it was a new year, you spent a couple of months writing last year's date. I sent out in the original Concierge Trade Alert, I sent out the March contract. Thanks to, and let me remember for a second, Garrett. Garrett brought it to my attention straight away that I had, in fact, sent out the March contract for the S&P and the ES, and so I immediately sent out a correction to all involved parties so that you would have the proper numbers. Now, I'm simply opening up my own copy so that I can make sure I have the proper numbers. And now I do. And so with that, I will take the screen, bring it back home. Recap of the recap.
Today, it took me 64 minutes and 5 trades to get $200 a contract.
64 minutes, call it an hour. 5 trades. You're allowed 10 a day, plus your rollovers. And how much you make? $100 even?
Well, it was $100 even, to get to the goal.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. $100
Yep.
gross. That's a gross figure, by the way, guys. Always remember. Gross figure. $100 per contract per day. Gross. Okay. Now let me turn on my screen. And now let me get back to the chart that I need, which is the S&P 500. Okay, now the numbers you're looking at, guys, those are for the 1 trade a day from yesterday. Now, on the Concierge Trade Alert, it was buy 2013 and a quarter, or on the sell side, it was 93.75. So as you can see, there's no 93.75. The markets have been so quiet, and there was no 1350. Now, Michael said he had a short recap, so in turn, I'm going to have a short recap because we just did not have a lot of volatility last night. Global markets are a little nervous, a little shaky, if you will, as to what it is exactly that Ms. Yellen is going to do when she makes her announcement today. So let me get everything squared away here. And I take it, Michael, that you probably have calls to make. Oh, and a reminder, guys, if you have an early mentoring session scheduled today, I'll be in touch with you via email. We'll get that rescheduled. I have an appointment, a couple appointments I have to attend. If I don't get you later this afternoon, I will certainly get you tomorrow. So if that applies to you, stand by for an email from me as soon as I can get it off to you. Today's broadcast will be just a little bit short for that reason. Okay? All right. Let's see. What did I want to do? Oh, I wanted to do this. Okay. Didn't want to do that. How did that happen? I can see it's going to take me a while to learn to properly use my new tool, but I like it. I did some videos last night that had, now, let's see, maybe I'm on full screen. Don't want to blow it up that big. Got to figure out how to lock that in position. Now, there we go. Just a little dose of realism. There's a real person behind the microphone. Flesh and blood, just like you. learning to trade these markets and be consistently profitable. So Michael, we're going to go right into our good word for the day. So if you want to, I don't know if you've got to bow out now or not, but I'll chat with you on a couple things later this afternoon, okay? I take that to be an okay. I must already be on the phone.
Yeah, I said okay, sounds good. I didn't have my second thing on. All right. All right, so I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. See ya.
Okay. What do we do in a crisis? Our nation is in a crisis. Many families are in a crisis right now. But as believers, what do we do? Acts 27:15 says, we gave way to it and were driven along. Okay. Now, as a standalone, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but let me dig a little deeper, and it will make perfect sense, because the Word of God is perfect. Don't drift. The question was, what do you do in a crisis? This is part 1 of a mini-series. What do you do in a crisis? Don't drift. Typically, we react to a crisis in the same 3 ways as the sailors on board Paul's ship. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind, so we gave way to it and were driven along. The first thing life storms tend to do is make us drift. We lose sight of our goals, our values, and we forget where we're headed. Many of us became traders, Emini Futures traders, because someone had told us about this clever idea of making just 2 points a day out of the S&P and being able to build an actual business and earn a great living. And it's a true story. That can be done. We have people doing it every day. But many of us in our journey to get to those 2 points a day, we lose sight of the original goal, which was to have financial freedom and to have freedom of time, to stop exchanging hours for a paycheck, but to actually live life and have the money to live life the way we want to live life. And for most of us who are part of this community, that doesn't mean a fast car, a big house, and a cigar. Although there's nothing wrong with fast cars, big houses, and cigars. It's just that I know this audience very well, and I know that most of you, along with Michael and myself, have something, we're attached to something a little larger than ourselves. We invite you to be a part of that journey. Now, we lose sight of our goals, we forget where we're headed, we ignore our values, and we get off course. In other words, we're lost. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Because they weren't equipped back in the day with compasses, and the stars were obscured by the storm, the sailors were in total darkness. Which raises the question, how do you characteristically react in a dark situation when you can't see the stars, can't see the moon, don't have a compass, don't have an iPhone with a little compass or flashlight? You may drift, going wherever the waves carry you, back and forth. You may let your problems batter you and toss you. In life, strong currents can discourage you, make you wonder, what's the use? Why fight it? So you end up going with the flow. But now's the time to do the opposite. Strengthen your grip of faith. If you're in a crisis right now, more than anything, strengthen your grip of faith. It's easy to have faith when we stand on the mountaintop, money in the bank, food in the fridge, gas in the tank, money in the bank. Hey, who wouldn't have faith with a life like that? But what about when there's a crisis? They say you never know what sort of fruit a man has until you squeeze it. Is it sweet, bitter, or bittersweet? So, in a crisis, as a believer, as opposed to drifting, it's time to do the opposite. Instead of saying things like, man, what's the use? Why fight it? This always happens to me. I'm no good. Life's no good. I've been dealt a rotten hand. I'm never going to achieve my hopes, my dreams, my goals. Now, those are the lies of the enemy. And we talked about this yesterday, and we've talked about it many days. Stop inviting him in for tea, okay? He wants to destroy your life. He does. That's his sole purpose. But if you won't sit with him and talk with him, he can't. He can't control your life, because the one you serve, the one who's in you, is greater than he who's in the world. So, crisis, we can drift, or we can do the opposite. Hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. Preserve so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. Hebrews 10:23, 35 through 36. Note the phrase, he who promised is faithful. Now, who's this he? The banker? No. The guy who signs our paycheck? No. The loan officer who approves our mortgage? Not even close. He who promised is faithful. Let me ask you this. Seriously, has God ever failed you? I mean, really failed you? Has he? I want you to think about the situation. What role did you play in it? Who dropped the ball? The answer, the truthful answer, is that God is faithful. He's not going to fail you. He never has failed you. Failure is not in his vocabulary. Why? Because God is faithful. Hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. He who promised is faithful. Just wanted you to hear that one more time. Hebrews 10:23. And he, not you, not your boss, not the banker, not your checkbook, not the gold you have up under the mattress, he will bring you through the crisis. Whatever the crisis is, whatever is bothering you today, whatever situation you're up against, it may seem bigger than you, bigger than your ability to deal with, but guess what? It's in those kinds of situations that God really shines. When we look at something and say, that's impossible. It may be impossible with man, but when God steps onto the scene, nothing, and I mean nothing, is impossible with God. So whatever crisis you face today, financial, in your marriage, spiritual, feuding with your neighbor, whatever it is, if you'll trust God and not man, he, and only he, will bring you through the crisis. And that's our good word for the day. All right. I wanted to take a look at two headlines, and then we're going to two headlines, and then we'll do the Concierge Trade Alert recaps, and that's going to be it for today. Now, tomorrow is Thursday, So our every other Thursday friend, Mr. Ed Corey, he'll be with us. He is our resident Elliottician. In a previous life, he traded crude oil for a living. He's got some great experience. We always have a good time on Thursday when Ed shows up. But today, we're just going to take care of business. We're going to cut you loose. Now, let's see if I can wear glasses and read at the same time while being on camera. All right, President Barack Obama announced his selection of Judge Merrick Garland as a nominee to the Supreme Court today during a Rose Garden statement. Obama wasted little time in framing his nominee as qualified and respected, and Republicans as, y'all ready for this? Unprecedented obstructionists. That's what he called us. For saying that, and he's referring to Congress, that they will refuse to consider his nomination. Our Supreme Court really is unique, he said. It's supposed to be above politics. It has to be. And it should stay that way. To suggest that someone as qualified and respected as Merrick Garland doesn't even deserve a hearing, let alone an up or down vote to join an institution as important as our Supreme Court, when 2/3 of Americans believe otherwise, he continued. I don't know where he pulled that number from. That would be unprecedented. To suggest that someone who has served his country with honor and dignity might be treated, as one Republican leader stated, as a political piñata? That can't be right. That's what the president said. That can't be right. And then he goes on to say, it would be a betrayal of our best traditions and a betrayal of the vision of our founding documents. Now, you may have forgotten that we have a vice president. I don't know how many can actually remember his name. He made some very strong statements in the past about a president nominating a Supreme Court justice in the final year of their occupation of the Oval Office. And that's what this has been. It's been an occupation. Garland will begin meeting with Senate Republicans one-on-one starting Thursday in hope of the branch of Congress holding a hearing for him. Senate Republican leaders and top presidential candidates have been clamoring for Obama to refrain from nominating a candidate in what is his final year in office, promising to not confirm his choice if he does. I simply ask Republicans in the Senate to give him a fair hearing and then an up or down vote. If you don't, then it will not only be an abdication of the Senate's constitutional duty, it will indicate a process for nominating and confirming judges that is beyond repair. I know it's hard to believe that this guy said that, but he really did. He continued, it will mean everything is subject to the most partisan of politics. Everything. It will provoke an endless cycle of more tit for tat and make it increasingly impossible for any president, Democrat or Republican, to carry out their constitutional function. The reputation of the Supreme Court will inevitably suffer. Faith in our justice system will inevitably suffer. Our democracy will ultimately suffer as well. A teary-eyed Garland, meanwhile, called the Supreme Court tap the greatest honor of my life, other than his wife agreeing to marry him. There could be no higher public service than serving as a member of the United States Supreme Court, Garland said. Obama said that Garland's name has come up as a suggestion for the court on both sides when he was vetting candidates for his previous 2 nominations. The one name that has come up repeatedly from both Democrats and Republicans alike is Merrick Garland. He also said that Garland has earned admiration from leaders on both sides of the aisle. I selected a nominee who is widely recognized not only as one of America's sharpest legal minds, but someone who brings to his work a spirit of decency, modesty, integrity, even-handedness, and excellence. He is uniquely prepared to serve immediately. Garland is 63. He's Chief Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. A graduate of Harvard Law, he was appointed by former President Bill Clinton to his current post. This is not the first time Garland has been considered for a Supreme Court seat. In 2010, he was in consideration for the seat which Obama eventually nominated to Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Now, I want you to think about this. If this gentleman gets appointed, and he may be vastly qualified, that means that our Supreme Court has 3 sitting judges, and that's a lifetime position. You have to do something morally corrupt or something really bad to get fired, to lose the job. Now, talk about leaving a fingerprint on a nation after leaving the Oval Office. This would be, I think, the first time in history that such a thing has happened. I don't believe that Congress will allow it to happen. That's just my humble opinion. The other headline, of course, is the Fed announcement, which comes out at 2 p.m. this afternoon. It is the biggest Federal Reserve meeting of the year so far. Today is the end of the 2-day meeting. We'll get the full Fed Day dog and pony show. We get the FOMC interest rate decision, a new dot plot with expectations for future rates, an updated summary of economic projections, and a press conference by Federal Reserve Chair herself, Janet Yellen. There are only 4 days like today scheduled for the entire year. Expectations are that the Fed will keep interest rates pegged at 0.25% to 0.50%, so from 1/4 to 0.5%, while potentially laying the groundwork for rate hikes as many as 3 additional times this year. When the Fed signaled in December that it expected to raise rates 4 times in 2016, and at 1/4 point increases, and that means over the course of a year we raise the interest rate, 1 point. That's not bad. America is ready for that. However, expectations for higher rates have tumbled over the past few months, as shown by the Fed funds futures market. The Fed sounded dovish in its most recent statement in January when it left the benchmark rate unchanged, saying economic growth had slowed from being moderate, and it said it expected inflation to remain low in the near term. The Fed also put global financial markets on notice, saying it would monitor any pass-through volatility in financial markets to the outlook for the labor market and inflation. The past few weeks have brought more stable markets, an upward revision to 4th quarter growth, and strong inflation data. And so a key thing to look for today when we get the word is how the Fed recalibrates its expectations based on what's happening since the most recent meeting. BNP Paribas economist Paul Mortimer Lee said in a recent note that another unanimous decision from the committee on the benchmark rate would be unlikely. There were no dissenters to the most 2 recent FOMC decisions. Mortimer Lee explained what the Fed is grappling with. Almost certainly, we feel there will be a reluctance to believe that the December rate hike had much to do with the market's behavior. The main support for the everything is fine camp is the behavior of payrolls and the bounce we saw in January retail sales. Economic surprise indices have improved in recent weeks, though the level of positive surprises is still a lot less than in 2014. Others may take the view that global conditions are to blame and will note that the soft tone in investment, which should make that group more cautious. Mortimer Lee thinks the Fed ultimately will remain on hold because there is still lots of uncertainty about the consequences of the recent market chaos, not because of any shift in the Fed's view on growth and inflation. So we'll know the deal coming up in, let's see, it's 10 o'clock here on the West Coast. Arizona is now the West Coast because of the time change. So I'm on Pacific time, 10 a.m. So it's 1 a.m. on the East Coast. So 1 hour from now, an hour and 8 minutes, we'll know the story. We'll be done before then, so you watch it, I'll watch it, and we'll all talk about it come tomorrow. Okay? So now let's take a look at our Concierge Trade Alerts and see if we had anything trigger. Okay? On the S&P, we were looking to buy 2013 and to sell 1993. We did not receive an opportunity to do either of those. On the Dow, we were looking for 17,165 or to sell 17,130. We'll see how that panned out. Now, these are last week's weekly trading zones, as were the zones on the S&P chart you were just looking at. This is the one trade a day from yesterday, buy 171.40, and the market made 47 points available on this move. Now, keep in mind, the Concierge Trade Alerts and the one trade a day alerts, they are valid until the next batch shows up the following day. So 171.40, we got it. I'm trying that little rectangle we talked about. So this move, 47, we know that important prices and important areas are almost always tested. And so here's price dipping just below the trigger to 171.36. And we put together a rally over 2.5 hours that takes us up to 171.77. So that move is good for 37 points. All we need to be done for the day, if we're trading the 2420 blueprint, is 37 points. That's it. One and done. And then this morning we get back below and off we go. And so we triggered in the 8:30 a.m. hour. We put in a swing high at 171.67, so that's 27 points. The Dow doesn't do ticks. Everything there's just a point. And then here we draw back right to the trigger. Okay, we like to see it get below the trigger, even if it's only one tick, before we take that next long trade. So based on that rule set, this final push up, we were not able to participate in that for lack of a tick. So the story goes. All right. Next on the agenda will be the Russell. We're looking to buy 1064, sell 1058. Let's get over to the Russell, see exactly what happened. Russell, I think I have a different Russell chart set up. Let's see. Is it this one? Yeah, it is. Okay. So this was the Concierge Trade Alert, or I'm sorry, the one trade a day yesterday, sell 1061. The first move basically was a stop out. The second move made $200 per contract available. And as I just said, the trades are valid all the way through until the next set comes out, which would be today when the new ones were published at 11:30 a.m. So the order was to sell 1061. Now that went out yesterday at 11:30 a.m. So you kind of got to keep these two separate. The OTADs are published to eminifuturestrading.com every day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Concierge Trade Alerts are emailed Sunday night through Thursday night, and I shoot for 9 p.m. Eastern. This change in time has gotten me closer to 11 p.m. Eastern, but I'm going to work on that, and we're going to try to get back on track with 9 p.m. Eastern. I'd like to do it even a little earlier, but we'll see. Let's get 9 in the bag, and then we'll try for more, okay? So important prices, important areas, almost always tested. Here's another drop. This time we make it all the way down to 1059.50. So that's 2.5 points from 1059.50 to 1061. Okay, so 2.5 points. Remember the Russell, it pays $100 per point. $10 per tick, 10 ticks to a point. So there's a $200 per contract move. And then we did it again. This time we came down and tagged 1059.50. Okay. If you look across the horizontal, you'll see those line up. If you were looking for a bigger move and you had positioned your stop up in this area, as I teach you in private mentoring sessions, how to determine where you want to put your stop so that it's exactly, you're not changing your swing every time you step up to bat. Using the indicator set, you're able to easily exit the trade at the point where you're maximizing the profit potential of each trade. On this move down, we got all the way to 1054.20. So from 54 to 61, that would be 7 minus the 2. So we've got 68 ticks. 68 ticks at $10 per tick. So the market made available in this final move $680 per contract. We're not going to get out with $680 of profit unless you're psychic, and then you need to be on staff because we could use you. Okay? We're going to simply use our tool set to stay in this trade until it's no longer safe to be in this trade. Now, let me show you with that last move exactly what that looked like. There we go. You would have been able to stay in this trade all the way to the bottom. Now, as soon as we start to move back above the step line, you absolutely want to be out of the trade. But I want you to think about this too. At 1061, once you get the drop here, see red, 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 and green. I mean, this is your first indication the market is turning. And so, worst case scenario, I would want to see you get out of this would be at 1058. Okay? Worst case scenario, if you didn't do anything other than move your stop to break even at some point, this worked out well. This was a good trade. It wasn't one of the bigger trades that we've had of late, but it was still, all in all, a nice trade with several opportunities to take advantage of the move. Okay. Next, we've done, let's do gold. Okay. Oh. Hold on there. Not so quick, partner. Now, I was just talking to you about the one trade a day from yesterday, and you can go see that on the video that's out on the Google Plus page, emini.cfrn.net. Okay, last night's Concierge Trade Alert, buy 1064. Was that possible? Could a person do that? Why, yes. Yes, they could. 1064. There we go. Yeah, I know I didn't draw the little box this time. I just felt confident that I could draw a straight line. And I did. So, let's write this up for the record book. CTA by 1064. Okay. Now, at $100 a point, this first move, this 30-minute candle carries right into this 30-minute candle, and we get a swing high of 1065.90. So that's 19 ticks, or $190 per contract. $190 per available. I have to figure out some shorthand for this. Okay. And then price gets back below the trigger. Important prices, important areas. Almost always tested. And then the big move with the least amount of risk takes us up to a high of 68.80. So from 64 to 68.80, that would be 48 ticks, or $480 per contract. 48 ticks. Okay, so, and this aberration here, not much I can tell you about it, except we ran up to 1064.70. So if you're trading 2420 blueprint style, you had an opportunity to move your stop to break even. If you were looking for something more substantial from the market, you didn't get it. Okay? Now, on the sell side, 1058. 1058. Now, the original, let me look here. No, that's about right. 11 o'clock. Yeah, okay. So, which would be 2,300 hours, which would be right there. Yeah, okay. All right. So, the first trade that you would have made in the Russell last night would be to sell 1058. No other instructions necessary. You know how to manage your stop. If you're a recipient of the Concierge Trade Alerts, we've spent time in private mentoring. Sell 1058. About 58. There we go. Okay. Swing low. 1054.20. So if we'd have gone the distance from 58 to 54, that would be 40 ticks, but we were 2 ticks shy. So that gives us 38 ticks. Ticks per. Now don't get that confused. The 38 ticks, that comes off the Concierge Trade Alert, okay? The 68 ticks, that came off the OTAD from yesterday, the one trade a day, okay? All right, moving right along, let's see what we've got next. We've covered the S&P, covered the Dow, The S&P, of course, again, nothing happened there. Bonds. Take a good look at the bonds. The OTAD did not trigger yesterday, and I don't have that number in front of me at the moment, but we can take a look and find it. Let's just see what the Concierge Trade Alert was up to. ZBM6 by 161.27, or sell 160.26. So here's 161.27. Right there. And it's also right there. Swing high 161.27. Okay. So on this trade, if you were buying on a stop, you may have been, yeah, I know, hard to believe, we actually do have trades that get stopped out. But we show you those, just like we show you the ones that run to the target and all the other stuff. We don't believe in sweeping anything under the carpet. Nothing. You start tripping over bodies that way. Now, on the next move up from 161.27, we make it all the way up to a swing high of 162.03. There are 4 ticks to a point. So if you're going to buy one, if you're going to buy 161.27, then your swing high at 162.03. There's 31 ticks to a point. I'm sorry, 32. And it pays 31.25 per tick. So if there's 32 ticks to a point, from 7 to 32, that's 5. Okay? And then the swing high is 03. So new math, old math, same thing. 8 ticks at 8 ticks at 31.25 per tick. Okay. Now let's take a look at the flip side of that coin. Sell 160.26. We've not gotten into that territory as of yet. Now I'm going to take a quick peek at because last night when I did the recap for the one trade a days, bonds had not triggered. I did say on the video that by the time we send them out tomorrow, there very well may be a trigger. This was 11:30 a.m. Eastern yesterday. The instructions were to buy 62.27, which certainly never happened. No, I'm sorry. 162.06, which never happened. Came a little closer, but didn't happen. And to sell 160.27, I'm sorry, 160.26, and no trigger. So bonds, in the grand scheme of things, relatively quiet. We've had over the last 6 months to a year so many $1,000 per contract days in bonds. It's been incredible. Crude oil by 36.80. Now that was the either the number from yesterday. Well, we'll find out. Monday evening crude was to buy 37.50. So that 36.80 number we're looking at, that's based off of the one trade a day, which is right here. Okay? That gets published at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. All right. As we work our way up to today, we're buying 37.10. Concierge Trade Alert, buying 37.10. So let's get a little line going. Come on, do the shuffle. Probably better draw the box. Not cooperating. That's so ridiculous. 37.10. Okay. I got it. I got it, Coach. Okay, here's the first trigger. 37.10. If I don't write it down, I won't remember it. Buy 37.10. Okay. First move. First trigger. Okay. Stop. If you're using dynamic structure of the market, that's a lot. So maybe we dial it down to a smaller time frame. Maybe we go to our 4-tick range chart to take our trade. Anyway, the market made available 9 ticks. You need 10 ticks in crude to be done for the day. Now, the risk on this trade here was certainly more to my liking. Trigger at 37.10. Now, of course, we had crude oil inventories today, and so I don't want to count that. Now, there wasn't a big shakeup on the crude inventories today. We did rally a little higher, but the crude inventories come out at 10:30 Eastern. Okay, so we're not going to look at anything to the right because that would include the inventory numbers. We're just going to look from 10 back. Okay, so the swing high here is 37, swing high, 37.60. And so 37.60, that would be 50 at $10 per. 50 ticks at $10 per contract. And that is not taking into account any of the volatility. And we ran a little bit higher from 37.10. What we're counting is to this swing. No, we're counting to, goodness, what swing are we counting to? Let's try this again. We're going to buy 37.10, and we're going to count this swing high at 10 o'clock, okay, which is 37.93. So, I beg your pardon, that's 93, so that's 83. 83 at $10 per tick. Okay? It's $830 per contract. That's what happened with crude oil. Now, this initial move ran up to 37.19. That's 9 ticks. You either took a stop loss on that, or if you positioned your stop a little bit lower, you may have been stopped out either here. You could have been stopped out here. As long as you keep your stops reasonable, don't give away the store, then this comes along. Now, staying in this trade here, look at this pullback, okay? Our indicator said if you're using that to trail your stop, it's not going to allow you to stay in this trade during this pullback, okay? So really, we should do our ciphering, as Jethro used to say. We should cipher off of this swing high, which is 37.80. So we're going to change this yet again and make it 70, okay? Because that's reality. That's the truth about trading. Google CFRN, the truth about trading, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I say the truth about trading is you will get stopped out. You're not going to get around it. You can't beat it. You can't outfox it, outrun it, outdistance it. You just have to embrace it. Embrace the stop. Your best friend, your insurance agent, your bodyguard, your stunt double, it's everything you need to help you be successful as a trader. If you avoid it, if you deny it, if you refuse to rely on it, then you're asking for trouble. No one ever built a successful trading business without first learning how to effectively use a stop loss. Okay? Just a word to the wise. And you are the wise. Okay, NASDAQ. Let's see. Last night, word was on the NQ, buy 43.65 or sell 43.50, whichever one the market gave you the opportunity to do. Now the alerts went out at 11 p.m. Eastern, so that's going to be 2300 hours. There we are. 43.65 is right here, somewhere in this vicinity. 43.65. There we go. Okay. 43.65. Can I do that? I think so. All right. Push it on up. 43.65. So the initial trigger ran into some troubled water. We did not get a nice move like this. This is nice. This is what we're looking for when we get ourselves into a trade, but we don't always get this. And so when we get this versus this, we have to know what to do with this. That's what learning how to trade is really all about. So and these are last week's zones. Look at them, still doing a fine job, zone to zone to zone. Okay, so if we're going to buy 43.65, buy 43.65, then the swing high, 43.75, that gives us $200 per contract available. You won't get out at the exact swing high, you won't get out at the exact swing low. However, if you trail your stop, you will get out, and the good news is you'll get out with some profit. Okay? Don't fear the stop. All right. On the downside for the NASDAQ, we were considering selling 43.50, which would be right here. I've already got a line there, so I don't have to draw one. The swing low would be 43.40.50, so that's going to be 9.5 points. 9.5, 9.5 points at $20 per point. Okay, so that's about $180 plus per contract, and $200 per contract available here, and some stop action here. Okay, so we've covered the S&P. We did cover the Dow. Quite certain we did. Double checking. Yes. Oh, yes, we did. Oh, but I don't know that we 171.65. 171.65. Okay. No, what we didn't cover was the trade alert. We went over the one trade a day, but not the trade alert, the concierge alert. So the number I'm looking at here is 171.65. Okay. $171.65. There's 65. Okay, we come up, we trigger. Nope, that's too early in the day. That's something we have to keep in mind. So this is why I need to drop this line at 2300 hours. Yes. Okay. That's a horse of a different color, because this had not been issued yet. You gotta keep an eye on me. All right. 171.65. The first move up took us from 65 to 77. That's 12 points. The next move took us up to a high of 82. And so from 65 to 82, 75, so we got about 17. Yeah, 17 points. And then on this final move here, we get up to 182. And there's an inbound call that comes in about this time every day that I can't take. Okay. That should stop it. There we go. All right, so we've covered the Dow, we've covered the S&P, we've covered the NQ, we covered gold, we covered crude, we covered the Russell, and that's all we do. We don't, oh, beans. We did not look at beans. Not that I'm crazy for looking at beans of late. I mean, beans are okay. They haven't been bad to us, but I mean, they haven't been the November beans. That's, what more can I say? Last night we were looking to buy 890. Okay, so 890 came and went right there. You rushed up through, it gave you a point, took it back, and then rushed up again, and this time gave you 3 points. And how many do you need? It's 4 ticks per point, so you got 12 ticks. You only need 8 to be done for the day. Okay, but then you've got this issue of a stop to deal with, depending upon how you deal with it. And you and I, in your mentoring session, will determine how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to write it into your trading plan, so that every time you enter a trade, you know the exact spot you're going to enter. You know exactly where your stop loss is going to be to the tick. No winging it, no flying by the seat of your pants, no hoping. Okay, that's not a... I'm all for hope, but it's just not a good trading strategy. So we get up here to 893.25. That gives us 12 ticks, and we need 8. So to the long side, we were okay on beans. To the short side, let us see, 886. Okay, we walked right up and knocked on the door. Swing low, 886, and never broke through. Could that have caused you to get triggered in on a stop? Yeah, it could. It could. So I've showed you some trades today that weren't exactly spectacular. Why would I do that? Why not just gloss over them and, you know, tomorrow will be a better day, and then I can pound my chest and tell you how great we are? Well, we are pretty great. I mean, I'll tell you that. But we're also pretty transparent. And we like doing business with a sense of integrity. We like being honest with you. So when we have something to toot our horn about, well, we'll toot it. Hopefully not too loud. And when things don't go the way we had planned, we're as quick to talk about that as we are the other. Okay? Because that is the truth about trading. For far too long, too many have failed to tell people the truth about trading. That's why the success rate of traders is as dismal as it is. And you've read the numbers in Futures Magazine or wherever you do your reading. You've read that the failure rate's 90%, 9 out of 10. Like, man, that's tough. It is. Here's the deal. Trading is not easy, but it can be simple. And our goal is to show you how simple it can be. This morning in our live trading room, we didn't have a lot of volatility, which means with no volatility, there can't be a lot of follow through. And so while we got our points for the day, we didn't put up any big numbers, no home runs, but that's okay. Just getting to first base a couple times, a bunt and a move to first base, and hey, you can be done for the day. This isn't about $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 trades. Do they exist? Yes. How many people do you know that have ever taken one, stayed in one, and been successful with one? Well, if you hang around here, you'll meet some people, okay? But I'm talking in the general trading community. There's a lot of bragging and a lot of boasting going on, but when the rubber meets the road, not so much. So that's why when you come into our mentoring program, the first thing we want to do is we simply want to teach you to be consistently profitable in the market. We want you to show us that you can be trusted with the little things. And then once we do the little things, we'll move on to the big things. You like my colorful tulip coffee mug? Thank you very much. So when you come into our live trading room, you're going to hear us talk about our daily goal, which is to make $100 per contract per day. And you're like, what? I can't live off $100 a day, man. I want to be a trader. We're driving me a Bentley, wear a fur coat, sing like Jay-Z. We don't have that program. We do have some knowledge and we do have some great tools, and we're happy to share them with you. In fact, that's why we're here every day, so that we can help you learn to be consistently profitable in the market. People say, how long is that going to take? I don't know. The 90-day mentoring program is going to last 90 days. Well, will I be profitable by then? I don't know. If you do your homework, if you do all the things that you're supposed to do, you'll have a pretty good idea if you're going to be able to succeed at this by the end of your free trial. That's if you get busy at the beginning of the trial and do the work, okay? Do the homework. Get that platform downloaded. If you already have NinjaTrader, then all you need is for us to turn the indicators on. If you have a platform that looks something like this, this is a white labeled platform called DT Pro. We use it courtesy of Daniel's Trading. Now, if you do a demo account with Daniel's Trading, they will let you use a platform just like this. It's a demo account, a simulator, real-time data. Everything is just like the real market. The only difference is you aren't trading with real money, okay? Too many firms out there are giving people too little knowledge and sending them out to trade real money. And you know what? That should be a criminal offense. To encourage people who have really not much of a clue as to what they're doing, and I don't mean that in any hurtful or harmful way. I'm just saying, when I came into the world of trading, when I came into futures trading and technical analysis, I barely knew how to place an order. It took a while. In fact, I was so anxious to make money that I wasn't willing to slow down long enough to learn how to make money. I just wanted to point the mouse and click and go woohoo, ring a bell and say, look at me. I'm doing it, you know. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out well. It just doesn't work, period. So that's why we have a 90-day mentoring program. I know the late night infomercial guy says, hey, give us 5 days and $7,000 and we'll teach you how to trade. Well, they will take your $7,000 and they will teach you for 5 days. And they actually do a good job of teaching the fundamentals of trading as it relates to stocks. At the end of the week, you find out that in order to trade stocks, you need to have a $25,000 minimum account balance. What? You didn't say that before I paid you my money. Well, we thought you knew. But fear not, because you could trade futures, and then you would only need to have a minimum account balance of $2,000 to $3,000. Why, that's hardly nothing compared to $25,000, right? And you're like, whew, sigh of relief. At least my wife won't kill me now. Okay, well, how do I trade these futures? Where do I go? Well, you're in luck because we have a class starting next week, Monday. Let me reserve you a seat. Oh, I got to take another class? Wow. Well, how much is that one? Oh, all of our classes are the same. Only $69.95. So now you're faced with a dilemma. Okay, I spent $7,000 to take another class to teach me how to trade something where I only need a minimum account balance of $3,000. So I'm either going to spend 10 grand, or I'm going to have to come up with 25 to fund my account. And then I've got to keep my account at that level. So figure you're going to have to fund the account with maybe 30 grand, because you're probably going to have a few stop outs in the beginning. It happens. And in fact, you're going to have stop outs every day of your life as a trader. And that determines whether or not you'll make it as a trader, as someone who actually trades for a living, based on your ability to withstand the stop. If you take it personal, you won't make it. If you get emotional, you won't make it. If you learn this simple thing, I think I'll close and leave you with this today. I got to check the chat box real quick, but please hear me. This is life-changing stuff. I didn't come up with it, but it changed my life. You do not have to know what is going to happen next in the market to make money. I don't? Well, then what's all these classes and webinars and seminars and indicators and oscillators about? Well, they're technical analysis tools, and much like the Doppler radar helps the weatherman figure out, if it's going to rain tomorrow or not, we have technical analysis tools in trading that help us put on high probability trades. Do they predict the future? No. No. Do they give us a good indication of what happened in the past? Oh yeah, they do a great job of that. So then past performance tells me what's going to happen next. Nope. Past performance is no indication, promise, or guarantee of past results. Well, wait a minute. Okay, if the past doesn't represent the future and all that stuff you just said, what the heck am I supposed to do? Got to learn how to trade. You can spend a lot of time and a lot of money chasing these guys around the internet who promise you the moon and hand you a spoon. Okay? You got to learn how to trade. You can hold out for as long as your money holds out, and then you either fold your hand and walk away, or you change your way of thinking. So when Mark Douglas, over lunch, taught me what I had already read in his book, that I did not need to know what was going to happen next in the market. I only needed to know what I was going to do next. That changed everything. Took a 1,000-pound weight off my shoulders, because I could figure out what I was going to do next based upon whatever the market does. So you see, whatever the market does next really doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to assess what is happening in the market right now, and then determine how you're going to handle it. Are you going to trade it? Is it a high probability setup? Or is it something you're going to walk away from, take a look at another market perhaps, or just wait for the current situation to change? All of those questions and more can be answered for you if you take our free trial by going to apply.cfrn.net. Our public repository of information, all things Emini related, can be found at this address, emini.cfrn.net. There you will find a minimum of 1,000 hours of live radio programs, recaps, workshops, seminars, classes, Q&A sessions. You just have to keep scrolling down and scrolling down and scrolling down. And just when you think you've gotten to the bottom of the page, up comes some more. It goes back at least a couple years. If anyone ever manages to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, or if you figure out a way to get to the bottom of the page, I would love to do that. I'd love to see what the first post was in that forum. I know there's got to be a way. I'll ask my friend Google. He knows everything. And then I'll let you know how to do it, and you can go have a look, see yourself. Now the market is heading slightly lower as we move into the Fed meeting. It's 20 minutes to the top of the hour, 22 minutes. That's when the announcement will come out. And the markets could get volatile. I always issue this warning on Fed Day, and today's no different than any other Fed Day. Don't trade it. I mean, if you're in the simulator and you want to trade it just because you want to be able to say you traded the Fed, go ahead. But do not, under any circumstances, trade real money unless you are a well-educated, well-trained, and already successful trader. Because in the event that the Fed surprises in some kind of way, and I can't imagine that they would, but even if they don't surprise, even if they come out with, because see, the market right now, the market needs some kind of fuel thrown on the fire. Because this thing's about, the flame's about to go out, okay? And so the market will use this afternoon's economic announcement to move higher, to move lower, possibly to do both. And you can easily get stopped out on the long side, on the short side, make zero money, and then you're kicking yourself all the way home, okay? Much better idea. Get a bag of popcorn, crawl up in the stands, get a good seat, watch the action down on the playing field. They run them up, gold's up, bonds are down, whatever. S&P 500's on a tear, okay. Give it about 20 minutes, and in most cases, it will go back to this plotting beast mentality. It's this huge thing, the S&P 500. We're talking about 500 best-of-breed companies, hand-selected and curated by the board over at Standard & Poor's. It's not just the largest cap companies out there. There's a whole list of qualifications that a company has to pass muster on before they can be included in the S&P 500. And because there's always exactly 500, in order for you to get in, for your company to get in, somebody else has got to get the boot. And so there's always a long line of companies waiting for their opportunity to be included in that index. Why? Why does a company want to be in the S&P 500? I'll tell you why. Because all the fund managers out there who have funds that mirror the S&P 500 index, that track it, so to speak, they have to own stock in those companies. Now, they might just be trading the index, but in many cases, you'll find that their portfolio is spread out over the 500 companies. So when a company joins the S&P 500, there's always a spike in the volume of trading in their stock. And likewise, when a company gets the boot, for whatever the reason, there's usually a spike in the volume of their activity, but price heads in the way that is most unkind to the shareholder. So we're just doing the little back and forth here, right below this weekly trading zone from last week at 0405. Let me see. You know what? It's late on a Wednesday, and it's Fed Day, and I'm getting ready to wrap up the show. So why don't I share with you this week's weekly trading zones? I would typically wait until Thursday to do it, but you caught me in a good mood, and so let's do it. All right. Okay, this one's going to go way up here. We've got 32, 33. Now, it would take some good news to send us sailing. Now, there was a time when the Fed had a lot of bullets in the interest rate gun, and they could raise them and they could lower them, and you never knew what was really going to happen. Now the consensus is always, well, they're not going to do anything. We've been saying that for a decade. But I'm telling you, go back before the financial crisis, the meltdown of '08, etc., and Fed Day, it was fireworks at Disneyland. I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50-point spikes, up and then down and then back up and then down, and oh my goodness. Then it would all settle down, kind of level off, usually about where it was when it all started. All right, so on the S&P, we got a zone up there at 32.33. We also have a zone at 2010 slash or 2009/10. Now, remember, CFRN partners get the weekly trading zones Monday morning before the market opens. Before Wall Street even wakes up, our guys are on the ball. They've got their charts set up. They're ready to do business. Okay, 2000/2001. Okay. So you can see what's happened over the last 2 days here. Price has gotten just below the weekly trading zone and consolidated. Now, trading zones are an area, and just like Fibonacci numbers are an area. When we talk about a 38, a 50, or 62% retracement in fibs, yes, it's an exact number on the chart, but it's also an area, okay? So keep that in mind with the weekly zones. And someone yesterday in a mentoring session said, I'm a partner now. How do I learn more about the zones? And I said, the best advice that I can give you is to go to Google, search CFRN weekly trading zones. And immediately the page filled up with articles that I've written about the weekly trading zones. We've been using them or publishing them publicly since December 14th of 2009. Michael and I traded them before that when I first developed them, and then we released them to the public in 2009. Read some of those articles. That will bring you up to speed on the purpose of the zones, how price reacts around the zones. The most common thing is consolidation. That's consolidation. That's consolidation. Even when it's just a few candles here, 3, 4, 30-minute candles, consolidation. Consolidation. Okay? Price goes from zone to zone to zone to zone to zone. From 2001 to 2009, that's an 8-point move. So you got 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. 40 S&P points just going from zone to zone to zone to zone. Okay, let me get the rest of the numbers up there, or the ones that could come into play. 69.70. Really? We drop all the way from 2,000 to 69.70? Hey, it is what it is. Yeah, so we'll pull this down. That tells me I hadn't really given this much thought because I've been busy. That's why. Pull it down, pull it down. All right, 1969. Wow, we could actually see some real volatility off of this Fed business. Now I'm interested to see what happens. Okay, because look at how we've been coiling in this zone now for a couple days. If they say something that traders don't like, they throw a temper tantrum, and everybody sells, and the market falls, and the sky is falling, and it's Chicken Little all over again. And then tomorrow we end up right back where we were before the sky was falling. So 69.70, and then below that, wow. I'm going to go ahead and just pull these out of here. Huge, huge, huge. 0506. Now, are these numbers the market can actually get to? Well, when you go and Google CFRN weekly trading zones, after you read the articles, make sure you look up at the top of the page and there's several options. One of them is news, the other is images. Click images. And because you've searched CFRN weekly trading zones, it'll bring up a whole page full of charts that Google has archived for us. Of course, you can weed your way through the blog, through the Google Plus page, through our website, through our old website, and you can find these charts on your own, or you can just go to a page where Google has thrown them all together. Now, sometimes other people's charts get thrown in with ours. It's just the way the Google algorithm works. So, but you'll learn to spot our charts, and you'll see how they have evolved a little over the years. But what you'll notice is that from today, what I just showed you, all the way back to the first day we published, what hasn't changed is the behavior of price in and around the zones. Zone to zone to zone to zone to zone to zone. Each time price gets to a zone and starts to consolidate, what it's doing is it's trying to make up its mind if it's going to move to the zone overhead or if it's going to move to the zone below. We do have partners who just trade the zones. They've told me, I went through your mentoring and I really like everything you do, but the zones have become the centerpiece of my trading. One move from a zone like 2010 up to 2032, that's a 22-point move. That's a week maker, okay? Let's back up. Okay, so that's all we need for now. 32.33 overhead. Is that the highest weekly zone? No, it's not. Might as well go ahead and just put the highest one up there. Probably won't need it, but it'll be there in case you do. 2069 slash 2068 slash 2069. Okay. 2068 slash 69. Okay. All right. So that is the highest weekly zone. So today's only Wednesday, and if the markets like what the Fed says and we, start to climb, end of business Friday, we would not expect to close higher than 2069. Okay? And our lowest zone is actually, did I go all the way down there? That's not right. After 60, yeah, 0506. Okay. Wait a minute. My eyes deceived me. See, that's what happens when you try to work without your glasses. I may have to get contacts. I only need glasses for reading up close. So that zone now has just been reduced because I held it up in the light where I could actually read it. 69.70. And then below that is 35.36. And then below 35.36 is 1913/14. So there's 14. And here's 13. Okay, 13, 14, 35, 36, 69, 70, 2000, 2001, 09, 10. There it is. That's the whole shoot match, whatever that means. Today's Wednesday, the 16th. So this was Tuesday, the 15th, the Ides of March. The 14th, what did that look like? In fact, let's just go all the way back to the Sunday night Globex Open, which would be right there. There. March 11th, March 13th. Okay, right there. Now I'll take down the last week's zones business. So March 13th. Okay. Alrighty then. So price opened in a zone and basically stayed in a zone from Sunday night until yesterday afternoon, last evening, when it made the trip down to the zone below. Man, we've just been captivated by these two zones. So, like I say, the market is desperate for some fuel on the fire. So, even if there's not much said, be prepared for a relatively big move compared to what we've seen of late. Why? Because the market is desperate for some fuel on the fire. So they'll use anything. Traders will use anything to create some volatility so that they can trade and make money. Got to have volatility to trade. The sleepy little quiet markets are sleepy little quiet markets. They're not exciting. And we don't come to the market looking for excitement each day. No way. No, sir. Chat box. Let me see if there's anything in there that I might have missed. And if there is, I will certainly answer it. No, Eugene. Oh, your question already got answered. That Rubio situation in Florida is the same for Christie here in New Jersey. Christie was too busy this week hanging out with Trump. I mean, watching him follow Trump around, it's kind of embarrassing. And chose not to attend the funeral of a New Jersey state trooper killed in the line of duty. One of many reasons he is not liked here in New Jersey. Thank you for sharing that, Neil. I was not aware of that. Richard asked if anyone here has upgraded to Windows 10. I've not. I've heard some people tell me it was okay, but I haven't. I will avoid it until the very last, until I can't avoid it anymore. Bob, thanks. Bob Z, man, you always brighten my day. Thanks, buddy. Did you like that mess, Bart? Thanks. Did it just for you. My wife keeps screaming at me that she's going to come in here and clean it up if I don't. Oh, I'll never find anything. You're welcome, Alan. Glad to be of service. Wise men all have mustaches. Okay, Tom. Thanks. I guess I'll keep mine. Paul says, I've been on Windows 10 for some time now. Paul says, Windows 10 is working better for me than 7 or 8. Wow. Okay. Now, my wife uses Windows 10 on we have a all-in-one type computer that sits on the island in the kitchen. And that's where she spends most of her time, in the family room or in the kitchen. And so that's sort of her workstation. She has Windows 10, and she's not crazy about it. I think it's because the Wi-Fi signal is not getting down there strong enough, and so her computer is acting very sluggish. It's not a virus or bug, of that I'm sure. I think I just need to get I think they call them a repeater, to put halfway between the wireless router and her workstation. Like somewhere at the top of the stairs, or maybe even the bottom of the stairs. So it picks up that signal and zings it out a little further. Because a couple times I've sat down at her computer to just look something up on the internet. It seemed okay. It seemed fairly user-friendly. I agree, I liked it better than 7 and 8. 8, I got no use for. I have to my left, I have a Windows 8 computer that hasn't been turned on. Well, I think I turned it on by accident the other day, but for the most part, it hasn't been used in a very long time. Paul says, Windows, okay, got that. George says, I love 7, okay. I'm still running 7 on the big screen that we have up right now. All right, did we just get the Fed? All right, let's listen to it together. No change in rates.
25 to 50 basis points. However, the Federal Reserve slashing its forecast for future rate hikes. Now seeing 2 rate hikes this year, down from 4.
2 rate hikes, not 4 this year.
Off of the forecast for next year. Pretty aggressive there. The Federal Reserve slightly upgraded its assessment of the current economy, certainly upgraded its assessment of current inflation, but seemed to upgrade its concern or worries over global concerns, saying global economic and financial developments continue to pose risks, and it did not provide a balance of risk assessment for the U.S. economy. The vote was 9-1 with a dissent from Kansas City Fed President Esther George, who preferred to hike 25 basis points. On the labor market, the Fed said a range of recent indicators, including strong job gains, point to additional strengthening of the labor market. On economic growth, they said it's expanding at a moderate pace despite those global economic and financial developments. On household spending, it said it's increasing at a moderate rate. Inflation significantly says it picked up in recent months, however, is still below the committee's 2% longer run objective. The housing sector, it says, improved further. Net exports and business fixed investment were soft. I don't know if you guys have that chart there of the now the new Fed forecast for the funds rate, but let me give it to you. It's down 50 basis points for 2016 to 0.88. It's down 50 basis points for 2017 to 1.88. It's down almost 40 basis points for 2018 to 3%, and the longer run is now 3.25, down 25 basis points. It's much closer to where the actual market is right now. A couple other things: a modest downgrade for growth for 2016 and 17, and it reduced its headline inflation for this year by a lot, but pretty much unchanged on the core level. Final two elements here: the Federal Reserve saying it will reinvest its balance sheet over the next several months, and it will gradually increase rates only gradually when it does so. Brian, back to you.
Steve, I know they didn't raise rates, so the headline sort of generally might be Fed does nothing. I don't think so. I think we are witnessing a complete change in the Fed.
Fed does nothing. And the gentleman from somewhere who was going to deliver commentary after that said that this is a different Fed that we're seeing, a Fed behaving differently. Look at the market; it likes what it got for the moment. Look at that thing. See, we just needed a little fuel, man. Give me some fuel, and we're off and running. Off and running. Huh. Okay. So let's just watch it for a second. Actually, you know what? I do need to go. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat box. Dwayne, finally you are seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. That was me. Yeah. Paul says he only uses Windows 10 to run his charting programs. Everything else he does on a Mac. Okay. Bob Z says, that was good, Jim. Very good. So, yeah, you're liable to catch me in Winslow, Arizona most any day. I'm going to run. Okay. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this: there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.
This podcast is brought to you by System Runner. To test drive a breakthrough in automated Forex trading and to open a demo account today, visit www.systemrunner.com.
Hello and welcome to the Mind of a Trader. This is Steve Croft. The author Jeffrey Gitomer said obstacles can't stop you, problems can't stop you. Most of all, other people can't stop you. Only you can stop you. Think back to the times when something has caused you to just stop. Whether you just walked away from a project, whether you tried a new skill, whether you went to a class, whatever it might be, and for some reason you never finished, or you walked away from it, or you decided it just wasn't for you. Looking back on it now, can you truthfully find out the true reason behind it? Were there some obstacles? Were there some problems or challenges that you just didn't get an answer to? Were there other people that said, wow, nobody can get that done, I don't even know why you're trying? Were those the reasons that you stopped? Or if we really look in the mirror, was it ourselves? Were we the ones that told ourselves, I guess I can't, and we stopped? Is that somehow equal to some of the times that maybe we get discouraged in our trading? We start along and we read or we try a strategy or a method, and it just doesn't seem to be working. We're not getting a big string of wins, and we start coming up with obstacles, problems, or our friends are telling us, I told you shouldn't do that. And next thing you know, we decide, I'm just going to stop. You might stop for a day, you might stop for a week, maybe you've stopped for a long time, and this is the first time that you've decided to get back into it, and you've joined us today on The Mind of a Trader, and you want to get started again. Well, I want to give you a primer. Just think of the word primer and just write down the letters P-R-I-M-E-R, primer. And let's think as though we're getting back to the beginning, and we want to be very successful because these 5 simple steps are a primer that most successful traders have in place. This primer, if you will, just like putting primer on the wall before you put your major coat of paint on it so that you have a nice, smooth, successful coverage, is exactly what we want to have in our trading. I want to cover all the things that are happening in the marketplace. I want to take care of the difficult times and the good times. I want to handle my wins and my losses. I want to take my learning strategy and be able to allow myself to grow with that strategy. So let's walk through these 5 simple steps of the primer. P. If you're going to start over, or if you're in the middle right now of trading, you've been trading for a while, but you want to kind of maybe get a resurgence, you want to refresh, then take the P and put together a plan. Start over with a clean sheet of paper and have a dedicated plan in place of how you're going to approach trading each and every day that you sit in front of your computer. Every time you open a session of trading, what is your plan? What is the trading method you're going to use? What's the time frame that you're going to sit down in front of your computer and trade? We don't need to be there 24 to 48 hours in a row. Set a time frame that you're going to do it, and then you're going to walk away. You finish during that day. What are your goals for that session? How many trades? How much money are you going to deal with? If you have a profit number in place, or maybe you want to make sure that you follow your certain steps that day to the letter of the law. Whatever your plan is, you want to develop this plan, write it down, all the way down to where you're going to put your glass of water that you're going to have, or a cup of coffee, when you're going to take a break. Are you going to take a walk after 30 minutes? Are you going to analyze for 30 minutes before you even make a trade? Whatever your strategy is, whatever your plan is, write the plan down. So there's our first part of our primer, P. Let's plan. The R of primer is risk. Successful traders, the best traders in the world, they do not think about how much money they're going to make every day. That's not a concern for them. It's not a worry for them. To them, that's a byproduct of following their plan. When they think of risk, they make sure that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt how much they can lose. So you remember what risk capital is? That's money that I'm willing to lose. I need to know, how much money am I willing to lose? How much money do I know that I can lose so that that does not become a big heavy weight on my shoulder as my trading session goes along and I'm winning and losing and I might be behind a little bit? I need to know, what is that dollar amount? What is that amount that I am able to lose and deal with that risk? I, insight. You've got your plan, you've got your risk in place, and all of a sudden you start having a tremendous winning streak. I need to have insight into the overall picture of trading. understanding winning and losing and knowing that both of them are a vital part of the entire picture. See, the most terrible thing that can happen in winning is that you start thinking that you're invincible. You get 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 15, 20 trades in a row that you win, you make a profit on. All of a sudden, you kind of lose that laser beam approach to that plan that you had, that laser beam approach to understanding the risk that you're willing to deal with. And then you start making shortcuts. You start thinking, it doesn't matter what I push. It doesn't matter when I enter a trade. I always win. And you start veering away from your strategy. Next thing you know, a losing streak starts, and you can't get out of it because you've gotten so far away from the clear objectivity and factual part of what got you into that winning streak. So have an insight into knowing that when that happens, things can change. That's why the fourth part of primer, the M, which is staying mentally strong, goes right along with that. I have to be ready to make sure that no matter what happens in my previous trades, winning or losing, that I will always then execute the next trade that aligns up with the movement in the market. When that next trade, that next signal, that next strategy comes crystal clear to me on my screen, that I will execute that trade. I will be mentally strong to do it. Because here's what happens. A person loses 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 trades in a row, and they'll say, well, I'm just going to watch the next one and see what happens. And next thing you know, a signal comes along, and instead of execute it, they just watch it. And of course, what happens is the law of averages are now moving along, and that becomes a winning trade. But there was no success earned from that because you stepped away. If we're going to execute trades and stick to our plan, if we're going to deal with the risks that we have, if we're going to have the insight into what's going on, then I have to be mentally strong to make sure I continue through my entire plan and I execute the trades when they become crystal clear and it lines up. And my strategy says enter, as well as my strategy says exit. So what will be the weakness that will make that happen? Well, that's our fifth letter here in primer. The fifth letter is E for emotion. Emotion. How do we deal with emotions? What I mean by emotions is we can allow ourselves, now I'm not talking much about the inner side, I'm talking about how other people can make our emotions cause us to change. See, when we're preparing to trade, sometimes we get out there and we listen to everybody else, and it can really sway our emotions. I listen to the news, I listen to a great tip from a friend, I listen to gossip, I listen to rumors, I listen to the newspaper or to friends or to the radio or to a CD or whatever about something that just recently happened in the marketplace. And I take that person's slanted view and cause myself to emotionally change the way that I'm going to trade. See, successful traders do not allow that to happen. They keep their emotions in check, and even though they hear other information, they make sure they receive it in control of how it's going to affect their emotional state. They do not want themselves, or do they allow themselves, to veer away from their set plan. So we've had 5 steps of our primer. We've got our plan. We understand our risk. We understand the insight of winning and losing, and we take care of that. We keep mentally strong to make sure we take trades when it tells us to take a trade with our strategy. But we also keep our emotions in check when we get all this vast amount of information coming in. That leads to the final step of primer, the final step of successful traders. They understand that when they do everything properly, that rewards come to them. And what I mean by rewards, it's more than just profit. See, because sometimes you can have a great trading session but not have a net profit, but it was an excellent trading session because you made sure that you stuck solidly to everything that you were expecting to do that day, everything you set forth in that day, and you reward yourself. And what I mean by accepting the rewards is twofold. First is just accepting and analyzing the positive things that happened in your trading session. Look at every winning trade that you made and understand why that was a winning trade, and accept those rewards, whether it was a huge amount of profit or a little amount of profit. Bank that profit in there and pat yourself in the back. On the other side, if it were losing trades, look at the rewards that came out of that. Look at your trading journal and see that you stuck to your strategy and pat yourself in the back that you did well. On the other side of rewards, besides the ones that come out of your trading, reward yourself. I mean, physically reward yourself when you have done a good, solid trading session. When you have walked through those trading sessions very productively, positively, and professionally. Take some time. Go out and get yourself a cup of coffee. Take a walk. Read the newspaper. Play with the kids. Go out and play around the golf. Go out and go shopping. Just drive around the car. Whatever might be a reward for you. It doesn't have to even cost anything. Just go out and take a break from trading and reward yourself with something fun. This is all a part of trading, is having your primer in place that allows you to move forward. So remember, the 6 steps of the primer. Have a plan. Understand what you're going to do and do it. Know the risk. How much am I willing to lose? And don't go past it. Have insight in the true picture of winning and losing, how it all is a part of the overall plan. Be mentally tough and confident that you will stick to your plan. You will enter trades and exit trades when your strategy directs you to. Keep your emotions in check and not allowing a lot of external information like TV and news and rumors to sway you away from what you know is the successful steps that you take. And finally, reward yourself. Reward yourself with seeing what's happened in your trading session, and then reward yourself for doing that and go have some fun. See, that's what trading's about. Having some plans, having some things in place that you know what you're doing. Building yourself up to becoming a better trader every day. Like Jeffrey Gitomer said, only you can stop you. Don't let anyone else do it. If you've got a primer in place, you're going to paint a beautiful picture. If you know that you are in control of what's going on and you will stick to it, you will become a better trader each and every day. So I hope that these will help you this week. Take some time to put it into effect. See what happens this week when you look at your primer and you see the results of it. And I hope that you'll join me next time that we all get together on The Mind of a Trader.
This podcast was brought to you by Trading Post Financial. For more information on our company, visit us at tradingpostfinancial.com.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
You're listening to Trial, 8 Witnesses from 1st and 2nd Peter. In this 28-week sermon series, Pastor Mark Driscoll examines the books of 1st and 2nd Peter through 8 character witnesses that come forward to testify about your life. For more info on Trial, visit 8witnesses.com. And for more audio and video content, visit marshillchurch.org.
Howdy, Marshall. Today we finish a short 3-part series in the book of 2nd Peter. We dealt with true teachers, and now we're spending 2 weeks looking at false teachers. And today we're examining doctrine from false teachers in 2 Peter chapter 2, the second half of verse 10 through verse 22. So if you've got a Bible, feel free to go there. We'll read it, pray, and get right to work. We've got a lot to cover. Here's what Peter has to say. Speaking of false teachers, he's already called them blasphemers and heretics. Bold and willful, they do not tremble as they blaspheme the glorious ones, whereas angels, though greater in might and power, do not pronounce a blasphemous judgment against them before the Lord. But these, like irrational creatures and animals of instinct, born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheming about matters of which they are ignorant, will also be destroyed in their destruction, suffering wrong as the wage for their wrongdoing. They count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions while they feast with you. They have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed. Accursed children, forsaking the right way, they have gone astray. They have followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved gain from wrongdoing, but was rebuked for his own transgression. A speechless donkey spoke with human voice and restrained the prophet's madness. These are waterless springs and mists driven by a storm. For them the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. For speaking loud boasts of folly, they entice by sensual passions of the flesh those who are barely escaping from those who live in error. They promise them freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. For if, after they have escaped the defilement of this world, through the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the last state has become worse for them than the first. For it would have been better for them never to have known the way of righteousness than after knowing it to turn back from the holy commandment delivered to them. What the proverb says has happened to them. The dog returns to its own vomit, and the sow, after washing herself, returns to wallow in the mire. We'll pray. Father, I do ask for wisdom and the Holy Spirit to help me to teach what is a very strong word from Peter. God, we accept that hard words produce soft people, and that soft words produce hard people. And so, God, when we hit sections of the Bible like this, we rejoice in hard words that we might become soft people. And so as we do study this today, God, keep us from false teachers and false doctrines, and let us enjoy the fullness of Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen. He set the context for you. Peter is a man who had lived his life. He then met Jesus, spent a few years with Jesus, was a leader among the disciples. After Jesus died and rose, Jesus reinstated him in the ministry again after a season of unfaithfulness where he had essentially renounced and denied that he even knew Jesus. He was so loved by Jesus and so empowered by the resurrection of Jesus that he went on to become one of the great leaders in the early church. And he is at this point in his life, reflecting on his life with Jesus, writing to a collection of churches that are multi-campus as we are, and he is warning them. And so the words in 2 Peter are very strong and very passionate and very personal. And Peter has already told us that he is about to die. Start thinking of what a pastor should say when his death is imminent. We know from history that Peter was ultimately crucified upside down. And what he wants to warn the people of is that there are false teachers, there are false teachings, there are false doctrines. We looked at it last week. He called them heretics. Heretics are those who claim to be Christian but teach that which is in contradiction to major, essential, what we would call closed-handed doctrines of Christianity. And I was thinking back on my own life in ministry. We started gathering the core for Mars Hill early in 1996. And at that time, I met lots of young pastors in conferences and through friendships and networks. And a large percentage of them, actually of the initial friends that I had, only a small percentage are still in ministry walking faithfully with Jesus. Some have fallen into all kinds of error and heresy. I've seen friends of mine deny the Bible, deny the resurrection of Jesus, deny hell, deny everything. Still claiming to be pastors, some of them still with ministries and churches. I've seen friends of mine sin sexually, disqualify themselves. I've seen them sin emotionally and disqualify themselves. At least as often, I've seen pastors' wives get into physical and emotional adultery, thereby disqualifying the man from ministry. I've got a list of people that I know personally that really should have heeded Peter's words. It causes me to live as a man who wants to be prudent and wise and careful and prayerful, to stick close to Jesus, the Bible, and my wife. What Peter is saying is that we all need to have this same acknowledgement that we too can go astray. We can believe things that are untrue. We can live sinfully. We can lose a deep, passionate love for Jesus, even those of us who would claim to be the most devout of Christian believers. And so I want you to receive this personally, to keep you from going astray, or if you already have, morally or theologically, to repent and come back. To think about your family and your friends and those in your sphere of influence, those that you love. How could you keep them from going astray, theologically or morally, walking away from the truth of Jesus? And I want you to think about our church as we grow and expand into campuses, and there are so many of us. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's also a great opportunity for evil, for cults to start, for people to be abused, for false teaching to get a foothold. And so what Peter is doing is, last week he taught us about false teachers and how we can detect a false teacher. This week, he wants us to know what motivates them. In fact, he's going to show us 3 steps that false teachers invariably follow that get them into false teaching and the teaching of false doctrine. The first is this. It's pride. It's pride. You can call it self-esteem. It's still just old-fashioned pride. Here's what he has to say about those who are false teachers. And you need to know there are false teachers. One of the great lies Satan has told is that there are no false teachers, just perspectives. There are false teachers. There are people who say things that are not true on essential, primary, closed-handed issues of the Bible. Here's what he has to say about them. 2 Peter 2:10, the second half of that verse through verse 13. Bold and willful, they do not tremble. There's a lot of pride there. As they blaspheme the glorious ones, angels, whereas angels, though greater in might and power, do not pronounce a blasphemous judgment against them before the Lord, but these, like irrational animals, creatures of instinct, born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheming about matters of which they are ignorant, will also be destroyed in their destruction, suffering wrong as the wage for their wrongdoing. They count it a pleasure to revel in the daytime. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions, while they feast with you. Here's where false teachers and those who promulgate false doctrines are dangerous. They still like to be in community and friendship with God's people. He says they like to feast with you. They want to come to your home for dinner. They want to show up at the Christmas party. Maybe even they host dinner and invite you over, or they host the Christmas party. These are people who are warm, who are affectionate, who are friendly, who are nice. But they deny clear teaching of Scripture. Their goal is to draw disciples away after them, the Bible says elsewhere. You need to know this. Think about this. The Bible says that Jesus is the chief shepherd. It says that in 1 Peter 5. That you, as Christians, are sheep. You're vulnerable. That there are also wolves. Here he's talking about wolves who want to destroy sheep. And so God puts shepherds in place to protect the sheep from the wolves and to continue the work of the chief shepherd. What he says here is that wolves like to eat with sheep. And invariably, they like to eat sheep. That's what he's saying. Some of you say, but they're really nice, and they're very sweet, and they're very kind, or they're very hospitable, or they're very available. Wolves generally are. They like to build relationship. They like to build a relationship in such a way so as to earn your trust, to teach you false doctrine, to lead you astray. Some false teachers are the nicest people you'll ever meet. But under it all, the way you become a false teacher is pride. That's what he's saying. Bold and willful. Those are words for pride. Bold and willful. They're confident. That's one of the reasons why false teachers are so convincing. They're very confident. They're bold. And they're willful. They have strong opinions and compelling personalities. It's not a bad thing if you love Jesus. It's a very bad thing if you don't. He goes on to say that they are so arrogant that they actually believe that they have greater spiritual authority than the angels do. He says these false teachers, we don't know exactly what they were teaching. We don't have their books. We don't get to tune into their television programs. We don't get to download their podcasts. But whatever they were doing, they were speaking against the angels. They were sort of boasting. I'm more spiritually authoritative than the angels. Well, the angels have never sinned. They're in the presence of God. We have sinned. We're made in the image and likeness of God, but we have no right by which to start speaking ill against angels or even bossing demons around. That's what he says. There are some people who will get up, and not in the name of Jesus or the authority, the power of Jesus, they'll rebuke Satan and rebuke demons and give them orders and boss them around. What he's saying is, these people are bold and willful. They're very proud. They haven't appropriately surmised who they are and where they're at. He says, be very, very, very careful that you don't follow people who are proud. Be very careful. Say, but they're confident, and they're nice, and they seem spiritually bold. Wolves often are. Wolves often are. He says as well that they are shameless. They sin in the daytime, he says. These aren't even people who wait for the cover of darkness at night to go do evil and teach false doctrine. These are people today who will just say, well, I don't believe the Bible's God's Word, and I'm a pastor, and I believe sex is fine outside of marriage, before marriage, heterosexual, homosexual. I don't believe there should be any restraints. They'll use the same words that these false teachers did, promising freedom and deliverance and tolerance and diversity. What he says is they're shameless. They don't blush as they ought. They encourage people to do things that are wrong. He says that ultimately they are blaspheming. He says this word a few times in this section. Blasphemy is denouncing and renouncing the truth. You take what the Bible says and you say, that's wrong, I'm right. Don't trust the Scriptures, trust me. Don't follow God's word, follow me. Incredible pride. Be wary of any place where the teachings of the teacher are more important than the Scriptures, and any book is held up in higher esteem and honor than God's word. They're shameless. They're shameless. And they're blasphemers. They say things about God that are not true. They do so in an effort to make God appear less glorious and good, and they want themselves to appear more glorious and good. And in a sense, they're trying to supplant God as the center of attention and the most trustworthy person in the whole ministry. It's about Jesus. It's not about me. It's about Jesus. It's not about Mars Hill. It's about Jesus. And so the best way to combat against this is humility. He already told us in 1 Peter 5:5, clothe yourselves with humility, all of you, toward one another, for God opposes the proud and he gives grace to the humble. See, proud teachers appeal to the pride of people, and the result is false doctrine. I'll give you a few ways to practice humility and to look for pride. Number one, look for intellectual pride. Do you really think you're smarter than everyone, or if not everyone, nearly everyone? Do you really think that your intellectual capacity is so far superior that no one can teach you anything because you are so brilliant that you can trust yourself? If so, that's intellectual pride. Number two, be careful of moral pride. Do you think you're better than everyone, or at least most people? Say, well, they can't teach me anything. They're not as moral as I am. They're not as good as I am. They're not as obedient and compliant as I am. Pride. 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 Number three, be careful of spiritual pride. Thinking that somehow you are closer to God than others, that because you speak in tongues or you don't speak in tongues, or because you have a certain systematic theology or don't have a certain systematic theology, or that you have had prophetic dreams, or that you've had supernatural power, or that you have the spiritual gift of discernment, that somehow you are spiritually more connected to God, that God is nearer to you than his other children, that you and he have a special relationship that is distinct from his love for the rest of his people. Spiritual pride. And number four, be careful of creative pride. We are a creative church. We like creativity. We like technology. We like the arts. It is fine to be creative with our methods of ministry, but not our theological convictions. Those who want to apply innovation and creativity to their beliefs invariably become heretics. Heretics are just creative people who didn't know when to stop. So they started creating new doctrines, they started innovating new theologies, and as a result, they became blasphemers. See, and we live, you need to know this, we live in a day when self-expression is this amazing cultural idol. It just is. So in our culture, it's not what is your race, what is your nationality, what is your education, what is your intellect, as it is in some cultures. It is, what's your personal expression of yourself? So everyone's a musician, everyone's a painter, everyone's a poet, everyone's a blogger, because everyone needs to express themselves as if that was a good thing. Some people should not express themselves. They should repent of themselves and shamefully hide themselves. Because we live in this day of self-expression, innovation, creativity. This is my way of doing it. I'm unique. I'm special. Be careful of that. Because if you start having that same attitude when it comes to your Bible, you'll end up being a false teacher teaching false doctrines. You'll be creative. Heretics are. They have to invent things that aren't true. That takes a lot of creativity. And what happens is false teachers, they appeal to this pride in people. So you go to some false teachers and they appeal to your intellect. We are very smart. We are very smart. Everyone else is very dumb. They will appeal to your moral superiority. We are the good guys. Everyone else is the bad guys. They will appeal as well to your spiritual pride. We are closer to God. We are blessed by God. We are the anointed of God. Everyone else wishes they had this sort of privilege that we do with God. And they will appeal to your creative pride. We are revitalizing Christianity. We are rewriting Christianity. We are reforming Christianity. We are part of the next Reformation. We are the change agents. We're not heretics, we're innovators. And I could tell you why this is on Peter's heart. He's given his whole life to loving and serving Jesus. He's not a perfect man. He'll be the first to admit that. He's looking at dying, and he's looking at the church, and he's looking at the Christians. What he's saying is, please don't go the way of many. Please don't think that pride is a good thing. It's a bad thing. Please don't feed your pride, crucify your pride. Please don't let false teachers appeal to your pride. God opposes the proud. He gives grace to the humble. Be humble or be a heretic. Those are the options. False teaching starts with pride. Proud leaders appealing to the pride of people. Number two, it then culminates in idolatry. We're going to read a long section. 2 Peter 2, 14 through 20. They have eyes full of adultery, the false teachers and their followers. Insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed. Accursed children. These are strong words. Forsaking the right way, they have gone astray. They have followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved gain from wrongdoing, but was rebuked for his own transgression. A speechless donkey spoke with human voice and restrained the prophet's madness. These are waterless springs and mists driven by a storm. For them the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. For speaking loud boasts of folly, they entice by sensual passions of the flesh those who are barely escaping from those who live in error. They promise them freedom. This is a big idea. But they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. For if, after they have escaped their defilements of the world through the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the last state has become worse than the first, for them, idolatry. What he says is that we should not be surprised when we see false teachers claiming to be Christians, teaching false doctrines and leading people astray. It's been this way since Genesis 3, when Satan showed up and preached false doctrine to our first parents. Here he uses another Old Testament example, a man named Balaam. He's in the book of Numbers. He appears intermittently through the second half of the book. Balaam was a guy who was a false prophet. What that means is he would say whatever he got paid to say. That's all it takes to be a false prophet. Rather than saying what God would have you to say, someone pays you and you say, write, blog, publish, whatever it is they would have you to say. He says it got so bad for Balaam that Balaam was actually prophesying lies against God's people. That's the story of Numbers. And Balaam had a donkey, and so God ended up preaching against the false prophet through the donkey. I mean, it's just this very interesting sort of Madagascar moment in the Old Testament. The donkey turns around and is rebuking the false prophet, saying, you don't speak for God. You don't know what you're doing. You're sinning against God. Shame on you. You know you're officially astray when animals are rebuking you. That's note to self. I've apparently gone into heresy at this point. My dog is rebuking me. So the donkey preaches against this man. And it's to show that God likes to work through his servants, but he doesn't need us. If he needed to, he could preach the gospel through the animals. What he's saying about Balaam is this, that Balaam is prototypical of false teachers. And it's ultimately an issue of idolatry. That Balaam was a man, like all false teachers, who loved things more than God. He says that these kinds of people are wells without water, that they are clouds without rain, and they claim to be enlightened, but they don't have any light. That's all the poetry that he uses. Thirsty people go to the well. There's no water. During the midst of a drought, everyone is waiting for rain, and rain clouds roll in. And it never rains. And darkness fills the earth, and there's a promise of light, and it's a lie. All these teachers bring, these false teachers, are false promises and false hopes. That's all they do. He says they promise freedom, they deliver slavery. If they promise slavery, no one would follow them. So they lie. They lie. That's what they do. Let me tell you a little bit about idolatry. It's an enormous issue. David Powlison, a great biblical counselor, says in some ways it's if not the mega theme of your Bible. When we think of idolatry, we tend to think of the Old Testament, where they made objects and bowed down to them. We think they were primitive, we're enlightened, we're not idolaters as they were. We are. Ezekiel 14 speaks of idolatry of the heart, that before you hold an idol in your hands or you see it with your eyes, you love it in your heart. Idolatry is the opposite of worship. Everyone either is always and continually worshiping or idolizing. Let me explain this to you. God is one in three persons, Father, Son, and Spirit. There's love, intimacy, connection between the Father, Son, and Spirit eternally as one God. We are made male and female in the image and likeness of God. That means that we are worshipers. We are outpourers, unceasingly so. We give our time, talent, and treasure away to someone or something. We're all worshipers. Everyone's a worshiper. I don't care if you're an atheist, a Christian, a Buddhist, someone who is Jewish or Baha'i or a Sikh. Everyone all the time is worshiping. The only difference is who and what and how. Because the opposite of worship is idolatry. Romans 1:25 says we have two options, and bear with me if you've heard this before, but it undergirds our biblical counseling and our view of how to have change in your life. So it's essential. Romans 1:25 says that we either worship the Creator God who made everything, or we worship created things, things that God made. This can be our mind, our intellect, our body, sex, food. This could be a pet. This could be the environment. This could be the pagan monistic oneness where we're one with all of creation in some karmic unity. It can be almost anything. We are to worship Creator, enjoy and steward creation. Idolatry is when we take something that is good and we deify it as if it were God. Now here's why we do that. We do that for a sense of meaning and value and purpose. So all of a sudden, you deify your marriage. You deify your children. You deify your beauty. You deify your success. You deify your degree. You deify your job. You deify your intellect. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You make into a God thing. That makes it a bad thing. So all of a sudden, the most important, preeminent treasure in your life is someone or something other than God. And again, usually it is not a bad thing that is put in that place. It is a good thing that is deified as a God thing. And from it, you get your identity. Your life is meaningful and valuable and purposeful. He uses this word.